to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is investment. We talk about investing in ourselves, and we're doing that all the time. We're investing in our story. We're investing in our limitations. Sometimes we're investing in our possibilities. And so we get to talk this morning about curating our investment in ourselves in such a way that we nourish and nurture our highest potentials. So it should be a fun conversation. Welcome, Rosalind. Good morning. So good to have you joining us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Before we get started with our conversation about investment, let's take a couple minutes to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're talking about investment. And I'm becoming so much more attuned to how deeply committed we can get to our limitations. We invest all kinds of energy and conversation within ourselves about our negative characteristics, our deficits, our failures. And as we focus that energy in those directions, what we're doing is we're amplifying those things. We're calling from the universe for reinforcement of all of those messages, all of those perceptions. We're calling forth for the amplification of those. And we could just as easily be calling forth for amplification of messages of strength, of courage, of possibility, of new potentials, of fuller expression, of joy, of love. And it's all available to us. See, this is the thing. We think that there's this truth about who we are, but if there's a truth of who we are, perhaps it's that we are consciousness made manifest in this physicalness, in this physical form, and that we have an infinite capacity, capability, or potential to actually express within this form, that it doesn't have to be bound by all the programming that we have inherited, that we have adopted, that we have metabolized into ourselves. We can create a new story. We are the authors. And it's becoming so much more clear to me how we create our own constraints, our own capacities based on our perceptions of our worthiness or perceptions of the way the world works, perceptions of scarcity and lack. We limit ourselves in so many ways with beliefs that we've been fed that create the boxes that we live in. And so this work, this conversation that is an ongoing conversation that we're having together, is very much about recognizing that we do have sovereignty, that we do have the capability, the capacity, the potential to step outside of those boxes, outside of that conditioning, outside of the constraints that we have adopted as truth. And we can invest ourselves more consciously. We can curate more consciously our energy, our intentionality, our brilliance, our life force in creating what we desire by allowing ourselves to feel into it, to express into it, to presence ourselves to the desires that move our heart and soul. And as we presence ourselves to those desires and allow ourselves the courage to invest our energy and our intentionality in those heart's desires, that life transforms. Life becomes a very, very different experience, and the universe provides, because we're in alignment with that core essence that we are. So much of our suffering, well, all of our suffering, I'm going to venture to say all of our suffering is self-created. And that's not some stroke of genius on my part, or a statement, an insolent statement from my part. The Dalai Lama has said that all suffering is a function of misconceptualization. So the way that we're thinking, the way that we perceive things is the source of our suffering. And that's not to say that there isn't pain. We can experience pain without suffering. Suffering is the prolonging of it. Suffering is the stories that we create around it, or that's how suffering is generated. Suffering occurs by believing that things should be different, by resisting the way that things are. And the misconception is that if we don't resist the way things are, that they will persist. The thing is that the more we resist the way things are, the more they have the energy to persist, because that resistance is feeding them. That resistance is affirming that very thing that we're resisting. And so non-resistance is not complacency. It's being present to what is. And when we are present to what is, opportunities for shifting whatever that condition is arise. And when those opportunities, when we're present, we can recognize those opportunities. And I was speaking with a client who is just a remarkable person who has accomplished what other people had said is impossible. And the way that they were able to do this was by really just being present to what the circumstance was, like noticing the bigger picture of a circumstance and not accepting, not being captive to the prevailing beliefs and projections about that circumstance, so that they were able to actually see what was really there, uncluttered, unobscured by all the prevailing beliefs around the circumstances. And as a result, they were able to utilize the circumstances and what was really so to transform a system that had been thought to be impenetrable, which is really quite remarkable. There wasn't the resistance to the way things were. There was acknowledgement to the way things were and to seeing all the pieces, not projecting the way things were onto things that were inappropriate for that projection. They were able to see the chink in the armor. They were able to see that the emperor had no clothes, in other words, because they weren't hypnotized by this invested belief of everybody around them. And so if we can recognize that our energy is ours to invest, that we do invest it all the time by the things that we affirm, when we affirm our own limitations, when we affirm the limitations of others, we create the reality of those limitations. And as we expand or curate more consciously, if we can allow for curiosity. So curiosity is an incredible lubricant. Curiosity allows the hard edges to soften. Curiosity allows us to find the space between, so that something that looks impenetrable, all of a sudden there's all kinds of space in between, when we can be curious rather than emphatic. When we know how things are, that's how they are, pretty much, at least in our own experience, right? When we know how things are, when we're curious, when we have a sense of wonder, it allows us, in fact, to see more clearly, because we are not projecting or imposing our perception on whatever that circumstance is, or whatever that that condition is. And so it is ever so important to curate our investment. How are we investing ourselves, our time, our energy, our thoughts, our emotions? How are we investing this energy that we are? Is it in limitation, or is it in expansion? And is it in fear, or is it in curiosity? Is it in judgment? Is it in curiosity? Curiosity, as I said, is this remarkable, it's kind of magic, curiosity, because what is it? It's the opening of the mind. It's relinquishing the rigidity of our belief and of our thought pattern. And as we allow ourselves to open to possibility. That's really what curiosity is. It's an opening to possibility. And oh, hello, good morning, Robin. Welcome, welcome. So good to have you here with us. We're talking about investment of time and energy, essentially, not finance, particularly today. So Rosalind says ways to do this: curiosity, noticing the pause in between the inhale and exhale, investing in a good night's sleep. Yes, yes, yes. So there's so many ways that we can invest. And curiosity allows us to be more discerning, I think, about our investments. And I love that you said investing in a good night's sleep. So many people make rest not only secondary, but unimportant, because we're conditioned, we are programmed by a do culture that is all about doing rather than being. And we if we sleep, there's less we can get done. And the question is, what are we getting it all done for? Like, what's the point? So if it just made me think about the paradigm that I grew up in, where essentially the man was the breadwinner, and he was at least in my family and in so many families, the father was absent because he was out earning a living, and that was the most important thing. And it was in the name of family, right? It was in the name of providing for the family, but in the meantime, there wasn't the relationship with the family, that the role was to pay, make money, support the family, but the actual engagement in the family was often really lacking. And that's a function of this doing mentality. And so I guess one of the things we get to look at, oh my, excuse me, is what is the being cost of doing, when we're driven by the doing instead of the being, when the doing is generated out of this external demand or force or requirement, versus a doing that is coming from a place. Thank you. Robin says bless you. When the doing is coming from a place of being, like being connected, having doing come out of being connected, versus being driven just to do, is a very different thing. When we get caught up in doing, we will do the list, and it doesn't matter how we're being. It doesn't matter who we hurt in the process. It doesn't matter how we feel in the process. It doesn't matter the emotional or energetic cost, talking about investment. But when we come from being, that can inform the doing, and we can remain connected to ourselves, remain connected to each other, remain connected to our intentions, remain connected to our values, right? And when we presence ourselves to the fact that, and this is just sort of a new thought, new revelation in this very moment, when we presence ourselves to life, to the fact that we are alive. What is that? What does that make available to us? We are alive in this living world. And being alive is something that very few of us invest in, I think, in actually being alive. We're very caught up in doing and not present to being alive and nurturing our vitality and connecting with the living world. We're not typically focused on that. We're not invested in that experience of being alive. It doesn't even get noticed. We're just doing. We're just playing our roles. We're investing in this whole notion that maybe we can do our way past death or something, or that our worth is a measure of how much we can do versus just being alive and being in wonder and being in curiosity and allowing the doing to come out of that kind of connection, to come out of that curiosity, to come out of the heartfelt connection with the yearning of our soul, the yearning of our essence as it longs to express itself, to be feeding that expression. So Rubin says, going with the flow, not investing in ourselves. Well, so going with the flow, I kind of think that going with the flow is investing in ourselves, our ultimate self, going with the flow that we're called into flowing with. I think that that's the ultimate investment in ourselves, in our essence, and in life, because I think, and this is tried on, not laying down the law here, but what seems to be truer and truer as I explore it more is that as I deepen into the yearnings of my heart and soul and my deepest commitments, they call me into a flow of life. Like life answers and says, yeah, you're on the right path. When you're connected to that flow, life says, okay, let's play. And it doesn't mean there aren't obstacles. It doesn't mean that there aren't challenges, but you get to flow with those things. And as you're in greater and greater alignment, the obstacles become less of an issue. It's like, okay, handle it. Next. It's just part of the flow versus, oh my gosh, I didn't need this trouble now. I can't believe it. What's the universe trying to tell me? Instead of just flowing with it, not resisting. So Rubin says, I understand what you're saying now. Yes, 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 yes. So thank you. This is really the ultimate investment in ourselves, like ourselves as the transcendent beings that we essentially are, as the beings that are the creators of our world. So not investing in the negativity that we might be leveling at ourselves, the self-criticism, the self-judgment, believing that all that is true. That's an investment. It's going to pay dividends, right? As we invest all that energy and all that negativity, we're going to get dividends. If we invest in potentials, if we invest in our expansiveness, if we invest in our capabilities and expanding capacities, if we invest in curiosity, it's a very different experience, and those investments will also pay dividends because we're asking all of those. That investment is a request. It's a request from the universe saying, this is what I want. This is what I believe. Let's validate that. And so curiosity, like I said, is this lubricant that allows us to make the transition from all that potential negativity that we might be leveling at ourselves to say, wow, where's that coming from? What would I need to believe that? So Rosalind says, noticing living, watching your nails grow. Oh, that's so funny. I thought I was the only one who does that. Is this something you do for 10 minutes? No, well, that's so funny. Requires visualization to settle into being? I don't think so. I think curiosity helps us. Is there a framework or taking away the thought processor? Is this the space where we notice the internal dialogue? What's the practice? Noticing the internal dialogue is a really important part of it, for sure. And when we notice that internal dialogue, then to get curious about it. Curiosity is actually a practice. Instead of judging, to be curious. It's like, where did that come from? How do I address it? Robin says, I do it also, watching your nails grow. Anyway, I appreciate the question. And asking questions is part of the process, because that's cultivating curiosity. It's creating an expansion. It's getting outside of the rigidity of our everyday thought as we notice the ways we affirm ourselves, like, I couldn't charge this, or I'm not capable of that, or that they can do that, but I can't, kind of thing. Those things, that's all investment. That's investing our energy and maintaining a limitation. It takes energy to maintain our limitations. So the question is, how do we expand and focus our energy into our expansion instead? And curiosity is a great tool to do that. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as my Facebook page. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. As always, it is an incredible privilege and pleasure to be able to spend this time with you each morning, exploring life, exploring being, and hopefully expanding our awareness. So until next time, so much love to you.